We got a little bit of a mess going on here, so let's take care of this and then we'll go over the short-term plans for the wood shop. A couple days ago, I put up these heavy-duty lumber brackets, and then yesterday I cut up some plywood and put it on there as temporary shelves. Now I'm in the process of getting as much stuff as I can onto those shelves. I'll take you on a quick tour of what we have here. Most of this stuff right here is for the tiny house project, and then we get into some of my stuff over there. We have a door and just tons of stuff, and the wood that it's sitting on is for the room that's going to be built on the other side of this wall a little bit later this year. I've just been moving stuff onto here and then slowly getting it onto the shelves. I need to do it organized so that I can get at the stuff. Pretty much all of this stuff has to move. This lumber can actually go in the lumber area. My lumber racks are going to be over in that corner, and I can move that stuff over there, out of there, get it on shelves and underneath the shelves, and move the lumber over there. This is my rolling supply area. I got a ton of my tools and stuff on here, and I can just roll this out of the way and get it wherever I want to. This is where I left off last night. I have stuff that's going to go in this opening right here, and a drain for that drain right there goes back, and it's going to go through the wall. I'm going to be working on this wall in a few weeks or so, so I have to get all that stuff in a single area so I have access to it. I'll be mounting the mini split. I'll be putting in drains. I have a faucet to put in. I'm probably going to be putting in a cat door. So there's a few things that are going to go through the wall here. Oh, and an electrical outlet. So I got to get all of that stuff staged in one area. And the reason I do that is so I know exactly what I have. So if there's anything I need to order or pick up from town, I'll have it on hand when I start work. This area right here was pretty clean and organized, and it's actually not all that bad. It's not going to take too long to get this area cleaned up, but it's mostly driver tips and drill stuff. And it's got a few things for connecting the compressor to the lines. So I'm going to get this stuff cleared out as much as I can, and I'll probably reset up this table with the stuff that's going to go onto this wall. A lot of decisions to make, and I'll make most of them as I'm going. So I'll be cleaning the rest of the day, and then I'll just come back and show it to you when we're done. And then we'll go over this list, and you'll be up to date on where we're at with the woodshop build here. It's 4 days later, and ta-da! I went kind of crazy with the cleanup. I took stuff outside and blew it off. I wiped down the machines. I pulled everything out of this corner and got it cleaned up, swept, put everything back, put new stuff back here. So this is as good as it's going to get for a while. All this stuff here is going to go out of here. I need to convert this dryer to propane, then that can get out of here, but all the stuff on top of here is going into the machine shed. This stuff's all going into the tiny house soon, and this stuff is going into the room on the other side of the wall real soon. So a lot of this other stuff is going to get out of here. Now we'll go to the priorities though. This is my list of priorities, and it starts with laying out the ductwork on the floor. That's because I need to order any parts that I don't have. I have a lot of parts, but it was a system for a different house or a different shop, and I may not have, well, I know I'm not going to have every part I need. I have a complete design for what I'm doing, but I'm not going to be putting it all in right away. This is the only connector hose I have. This goes on here, and that is where my bin used to be. This used to be in a basement with a 7-foot high ceiling, and this was all I needed to get down to a small fiber bin. So I need to order that, but shipping is so expensive. When I order that, I want to order any ductwork that I need at the same time. So I won't get into too much of how the design works for this, but I'm going to be laying it out on the floor and then transferring marks up to the ceiling, and I'll be installing these mounting plates with anti-vibration pads on the back of them. That's going to be an interesting video, but you'll have to stop back and watch that. Okay, so that's that. The next thing is make the lid for the collection barrel. As I said before, my old barrel was a fiber barrel, and it had these lids right here. These do not fit on a 55-gallon drum, which I'll be using this time. So what I'm going to do, I do have regular lids for 55-gallon drums and the clamps and all that stuff. So I'm going to cut that out, cut the edge off of it, and mount that lid to the lid for a 55-gallon drum, seal it up, rivet it on, and then that's a 9-inch port just like that. You can buy a 9-inch port, but they're like $80 some. This will be nearly free. I just need some caulk. I already have the rivets, yada, yada, yada. Next on the list is wiring up the compressor. That's just moving it back into place, getting it on its anti-vibration mounts, wiring it up over to the shutoff over there, and then I got to turn that on and do the startup procedure, which is running at full bore for 20 minutes, I believe, and that's without anything hooked up to it. So I'll take that hose off, leave it wide open, and let it run and get it broke in. Then we're going to connect it, and I don't know if I'm just going to test this right here and put a cap on, but I don't believe so. I think I'm going to put the T on there, go out and have a cap, and then run the line to right here. It's going to have the duct coming over here and coming down, and the air line is going to come down right next to that. Next, we have test the dust collector. I can actually do that at any time. You don't want to run these with everything open like that. We have the intake, the exhaust, and then this dropping down to the dust barrel. All of them are open, and the motor would just go crazy and burn up if we ran it like that. But I do believe I can start it up just to see how it sounds, let it run for 5 seconds or so, and then shut it back down. And all I need to do that is plug it in back there. That's where the remote's going to go at some point, but I don't have that yet. Plug it in back there and turn on the breaker. That one is a pretty simple one. Next on the list is to design the parts cart. The first parts cart is going to be for the joiner, and that is going to have 3-foot long shelves that slide out of the end for smaller parts. So when I'm jointing, the long parts I'll just set on top of the parts cart, and then I can roll out a long shelf like way back to here, and the shorter parts I can put on there and then close that back up. It'll be 3 feet long, so I can also use that if I'm building cabinets. I can also use that for different types of wood or whatever. It's going to have one of those on each end, and it's going to have big wheels on it so that it rolls easy in here and can roll outside if need be. We'll get into that in a lot more detail, but that's going to be very interesting. Planer Helix upgrade and more. A lot of stuff going on with this. I got to tear it apart, clean it up. I'm going to install a Helix cutter head in it. I have a digital depth gauge, and we're going to clean up this bed and use that graphene stuff on it and get that really nice and slick. The posts are filthy. I'd like to take this completely apart, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I might give it a try though. I don't know how hard it's going to be, because I'd like to get these really nice and cleaned up and get that graphene on them. So yeah, we'll see on this. And I have a hole in the control box here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this. At a minimum, I'm going to be putting a paddle stop on here, so this whole switch would go away and it would have one similar to that. Next, we have hang the west branch of the duct, and with all that stuff laid out, I'll have the order in and all the parts. I'm going to install, well, it's going to be a main branch coming out to about here, and then it has a drop coming down for the saw, and then it has another large branch that goes up to the ceiling and across to there and down, and that will have 2 drops, one for the planer and one for the jointer. So I don't know how long that video is going to take to film. It might take a day or two, and it might take all week. We'll see when we get to it. Skin the northwest corner and finish the lighting wiring. We ended the lighting wiring right here, the conduit, and all the wires are hanging out of this pull box up here. But we have the switches on this side. They're all wired up and ready to go. The breakers are in. So I need to run that down onto this wall to another set of switches, and there's going to be switches for stuff out there. I need to get part of this wall in, probably up to right in here somewhere. I do have a drawing for that, and I have most of the parts. That's part of the reason why I want to get that done right away. I have a bunch of foam that's going to go in the openings, and I have a bunch of cleating that's actually back there. I got to build out with 3/4 inch cleating, fill the voids with foam, and then put the plywood on. So, oh, and then I got to paint that, and there's stuff I got to do around the door. Around the door here, I'm going to take off some of this foam and put solid wood there, because I'm going to be putting hidden hinges on this, 4 of them, and this right here will be a hidden door. That's going to come later, but I do have to frame this in for that. But once I do that, I'll be able to put all of my lights in, and each bank will be controlled by its own switch. That is going to be a big deal. I want to have that done before I start work on this wall over here, which is going to be sooner rather than later. As you can clearly see on my list here, start east wall cladding. Now, once I have that wall clad, as I'm going, I have to make an allowance for the mini split. I have a water line. You could see the water line, but that has to get poked through the wall. It's a little difficult on post frame buildings like this, but it's not going to be that difficult. Electrical box outside, also difficult. And we have electrical controls going through the wall, going to the compressor unit of the mini split as well. Heater drain, let me show you that real quick. I have a bucket right here catching the water from this, and it puts out a lot of water, and we're getting water whenever it rains as well. It hits the top of the exhaust vent and goes around the corner and goes in it, and I've tried drilling holes in the bottom of it, but it still doesn't help. This thing really puts out a lot of water. But anyways, that is going to go back to the wall, come down here, and exit the building. I'd like to tap into the main drain, but I don't think that's going to happen. Where is that? I have all that drain stuff in its own box here somewhere. Oh, I put it on the shelf. Never mind. I'll show you that stuff when we get to it. But this is going to be an interesting wall. If you watched the earlier videos where I did this window like that, I'm going to be doing it again on that window, but we have all that other stuff going on. But the majority of the things going on are on this side. Oh, and we have a couple lines coming down, or we have 3 of them. One goes up to lights in the attic, one goes over to the furnace, and this big one is going to go to the sub panel that'll be mounted right there. And once that's in place, then I'll have power on this side of the shop as well. And that is going to be an awesome deal. I think that's it. Oh, and there's going to be a cat door. That is going to be difficult as well. I'm going to cut a cat door through the plywood and through the tin on the outside, so the cats can get in here in the middle of the winter. A couple of the cats go out all the time, and it'd be nice to have a place where they can go and not freeze. They come in here whenever they can and lay down in that little bed right there. And then I got some research to do. I've been researching track saws. I've had every different kind of way of splitting up panels that you can imagine over the years. My last solution was an actual panel saw, and that would be, it's like 20 feet long, so it's probably from the window, to the end of the foam over there. It's a big unit, and it has a router and a Milwaukee saw, and you run the saw up and down. You can really dice up panels quick with it, but it takes up a lot of wall space, and I believe that one costed $3,500 or so. I sold that years ago, and I think I'm just going to go with a track saw. Domino joiner. A lot of my joinery is mortise and tenon, but I really want to get a domino joiner because it's basically a mortise and tenon that's invisible. I've used biscuits in the past, but if you've ever used biscuits, you know the problems with them. So the last one, dust extraction, I'm going to have a dedicated dust extraction system for the miter saw. It's going to include this cyclone here, and where is that? This vac right here, Porter cable. This is a drywalling vac, so it gets rid of really fine dust. It's a 2-stage. So between that and the cyclone will have 3-stage dust collection at the miter saw, plus a duct coming from the main system. Miter saws just make a huge mess, and I'm hoping to stop that. Okay, that's it. Lots of videos coming up, but that first one, the next one I'll have out, is the laying out of the ductwork for the dust collector on the floor, and then transferring it up to the ceiling, and I'll be making that list of stuff to order, so make sure you stop back for that.